You may be walking through life right now more confused than ever. Part of it has to do with getting all this information. We have more information being thrown at us, more opportunities than we've ever had to take, of course. But at the same time, more distortions of information, more distortions of things being presented to us, which makes us see reality maybe very differently, in a very different way. And what it comes down to is raising our level of consciousness. In conjunction, we will actually raise our level of vibration. And in raising our vibration, we'll be able to perceive of the truth more clearly. I've been following the work of ex-occultist Mark Passio, who was in the dark magic circles and all that, eventually ended up leaving that. And now has taken that knowledge that he learned, from these small group of, individuals that have guarded this knowledge for a long time, and is actually going out and sharing some of this because he feels that this could be the thing that could help people awaken. We're going through the Great Awakening right now. And one of the things he hits on is this idea of, as you raise your consciousness, as you raise your level of vibration, you actually gain an ability to see the truth more clearly, and that happens to you in a multitude of ways. Everybody has an inner truth, and as you align with your inner truth more clearly, you will see that more synchronicities and things will happen. So if you see this here, this is a blue line. Let's say this represents your truth. This is your truest self at a soul level. Maybe you don't even fully understand it yet. I'm still, of course, digging and finding this truth myself. But as you raise your consciousness, as you raise your level of vibration, you can think of the vibration being a sort of wave form. If you've ever been through like science class or anything like that, you'll have a wave, right? And the wave consists of a crest and a trough, two kind of parts to the wave. And then the distance between those two is called the wavelength. And you'll see here, the wavelength being so far apart intersects with the truth here, intersects with the truth here, intersects with the truth here. So when you are at a lower vibration, when you are just maybe on this road, you've realized where you're at now, and you want to become more aware of who you are and become more aware of why you're feeling the way you're feeling, and you want to actually get down to the bottom of maybe some of the mental challenges that you've been facing. You'll see every now and then at that level, you will come across certain synchronicities, certain eureka moments, certain realizations that come from outside of you. That's because in those specific moments, you are actually interacting with the truth. The truth is sort of a substance. It is something that you can't see or feel, but it's there. You know what I mean? Your inner truth. And you'll interact with it, seldomly, rarely. And this is how it was for me in early, call it 2018, 2019, when I was working as a paramedic. Every now and then I would get glimpses of what I should be doing. Hey, be like little whispers. Hey, you should leave your job. Hey, this isn't going to work out for you. Are you really going to be working as a paramedic, working these these 11-hour shifts, sometimes 15-hour shifts for the rest of your life? And these little whispers would come in, and then I'd ignore it and move on with the rest of my day because, of course, where I was at with my level of consciousness, I wasn't fully aware of what I was doing to my body, and I wasn't really fully aware of what I was doing to my mind. That created some confusion when those whispers would come in, when I would hear that sort of, you could call it your higher self or your higher consciousness whispering to you, what you must do to actually move past some of the challenges. It actually become very confusing for me because you start to realize kind of how challenging things actually were. I didn't realize how burnt out I was. I didn't realize that I was going to work every day and being so disconnected from everybody because it happened so slowly. And so I was interacting with the truth, but I was interacting with my truth rarely. Fast forward to, and as time went on, the longer you stay in a lower vibrational state and the more often you actually kind of the more often you've interacted with these moments where you get glimpses of the truth of your future, of your vision, of where you're actually supposed to go at a soul level, the more heavier shit becomes, the more heavier things feel. I remember every time I'd get these sort of like little realizations, be sitting in the ambulance in the back of the truck and just feeling like more and more heavy, like this feeling kind of bubbling up inside me, until one day I cracked, like I kind of just like broke down. And basically what happened after that is some big things. I started seeking help. I started looking outside of myself to see if I could get help, and taking powers into my own hands, moving away from, I think we also have this sort of tribal mind where when we are going through some struggles, a lot of the time, and I definitely did this, abdicate my responsibilities away from me, because I was like in it, I was in the trenches, as I would say, working and just trying to keep going from shift to shift, and keep getting these realizations every now and then. Hey, you should do this. Hey, you need to move on. This type of work isn't going to work for you anymore. So then going back to what Mark Passio was saying, we raise our level of consciousness. I started meditating. I started doing holistic practices. I started spending more time in nature with friends, going on hikes every now and then. And those would be little glimpses or moments of clarity, because what would happen then is the truth as it is, would look much different now, raising my vibration. And as I did that, I started intersecting with the truth even more. I started getting more downloads of information. I started having more synchronicities of things that would just happen to me as I kept moving forward. And it was kind of like following a little breadcrumb trail, going down the little breadcrumb trail and seeing as you're going down, the pieces are getting bigger and the clues are getting more obvious of where you need to go. And it was such an incredible process, but it took me taking things into my own hands. And this is where we're actually, I think, collectively making a shift away from our old ways. We used to, anytime we were struggling, we would look back at our tribe. This is how we've behaved as human beings for the last 2,000 years plus, where the tribe was responsible for taking care of all of its members collectively, right? You'd have a sort of hierarchical system there. And make no mistake, friend, like we're still in that system today. It's just far more sophisticated, with more moving parts, with, governments and many other institutions that are plugged into the tribe. But we're still very much in a tribal mentality where we abdicate a lot of our responsibilities, and a lot of them do get taken care by these institutions and things around us. But when it comes to our internal truth, like that's something nobody can help us with. And that's where the confusion starts. That's where people start feeling lost, like there's no help available to them from the outside. I felt really isolated for a long time. In intersecting with the truth, you get these little breadcrumbs, you'd follow them down. I get little clues of what I need to do next. It's really important to follow your intuition, but that also, speaking back to the tribal thing, we move from the tribal mind now to the individual mind. When you've raised your vibration to a certain level, you've realized that there's certain things that you can do as an individual to actually move forward and get closer to your truth, that the tribe is no longer responsible for revealing any sort of truth to you, that maybe even your perceptions were formed by the tribe and they were incorrect in the first place. You see that in politics all the time. I've definitely, like, I'm not a super political person, but I've definitely changed stances from one party to the next as my perception changed, as my level of consciousness expanded, and I was able to see things differently. So when you move through this, you'll start to see that you intersect with the truth a lot more. And so when you move from the individual mind to then starting to realize things that you need to take into your own hands, I started asking for help. I reached out. I got time off work, got time away from work. I was able to get some therapy. That's when things really started gaining momentum for me. That's when huge downloads of information. I knew, you always have that voice inside you. There's information coming to you from the outside that's not you. We've all experienced this. And people experience it in different ways. It's called inner knowing or noetics. And I think I made a video earlier in this channel's history where I explained 12 different ways you can access higher consciousness. And this is called noetics. So you might not always have a voice. It might be a feeling. Intuition presents itself in many different ways because it's more of like a right brain, heart mind connection. It's a little bit different than the way we think today with our, highly analytical society that we live in. But in following these little intuitive hits that you get, you will start to become closer to the truth. You will start to become closer to your purpose of who you actually are. And some of the experiences that I've had were really hard to believe in just the synchronicity and the whole timing of it. There's work that's been done in quantum physics that even shows that when you get closer to the truth, your reality, what you used to perceive of your reality, will drastically start to shift around you as reality rearranges itself to your actual truth that you're now starting to live. And it's kind of crazy how this happens, because once I started actually taking action on my own in, figuring out why I was feeling so confused, and taking action is the key, then things just surprisingly just started falling in my lap. Like it was like I was on this like alternative path that I shifted onto and started moving the other way. And lastly, when you go from the individual mind to, you'll eventually move to a symbolic type of thinking. And symbolic thinking is when you kind of create like archetypes and patterns in your mind, right? Our minds are very good at creating patterns. Like going back on this journey, it all starts with the heart. You start feeling like things ain't right. You start feeling like there's more to you. There's more for you to discover about yourself, to know yourself better. And then you start to have these, thoughts and start intersecting with their truth every now and then. And then lastly, of course, God's taking action. And I started meditating. I started changing my diet. I started losing weight. I started getting therapy and asking for help and doing all these things that started clearing out old beliefs and just, BS that I had in my system that allowed me to see my reality very clearly. Over time, a new purpose formed for me that was so much more in line with what I always wanted to do. And I could see, looking back, how all the things that I had done in my life up until to that point were actually almost to prepare me for the next stages of, what lay ahead. But in intersecting with the truth, in following your intuition as you raise your vibration, you will begin to move into a type of symbolic thought where your life you'll start to see very big symbols in your life, representations of patterns even through your life. I believe that's the key to being able to see reality clearly, to clear out the confusion that many of us are experiencing today. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and until next time, peace.